Hello everyone, my name is Cooper. This is my Module 3 discussion. We're going to analyze the US culture based on Hofstede's 6 cultural dimensions, and we're also going to go over a little bit about the movie Outsourced that we had to watch for this Module 3. The first of these dimensions is the power distance index. This refers to the degree at which there is inequality that exists and is accepted between people with and without power. I think the US has an abysmal power distance index, and it honestly just keeps getting worse. While we do not have a royal family telling us what to do, the top 1% households in the United States control 32.3% of the US wealth, while the bottom 50% only hold 1.26, which is an incredible fact to me. We have a very low inequality, but really replace people like the royal family with corporations, in my opinion, and that's where our power distance comes from. Collectivism versus individualism. I think the United States is a very individualistic society. This means we stress achievement and individual rights of the individual rather than the collective. We live in a very capitalistic society that pushes us against each other in competition. And as individuals, we focus much more on our family units than as a nation as a whole. Actively making it in the United States means someone else did not make it. For example, like you made a really good restaurant, that means someone else's restaurant didn't do well. And a good example of this from the movie is when Todd is explaining to the man he doesn't live with his parents and sometimes doesn't see them for weeks at a time, and the man is really, really confused by that because that's just not the type of society that he lives in. Next is the uncertainty avoidance index. We have a really high uncertainty avoidance index in this country. For example, take the elections of our presidents. When President Trump was elected, it caused mass hysteria in the left, and many thought our country was just done for. You know, they thought it was over. They wanted to move. And the election of Biden caused mass hysteria in the right, too. This caused the January 6th insurrection, which will go down in history as one of the largest attacks in the U.S. government. And this was because people were uncertain and they wanted to avoid it, and so they, went against the Capitol. Example of this from the movie is when the two Americans come back to the office and it's flooded due to the irrigation, and no one who works in the office who's Indian is panicking. They're just getting the buckets out, but the Americans are panicking, which I thought was very funny. Femininity versus masculinity. For the most part, I think we have a low femininity score. Women in the U.S. have a lower need to observe traditional gender roles, in my opinion. A society with a lower femininity score will have more females in the government and a higher rate of female entrepreneurship. While I don't think this is as high as it should be, I do think it is higher than some other countries, so I think we're doing good in that regard. And many of my friends, for example, do not give any consideration to the traditional roles of gender, and they're 100% positive that they don't want to have kids. An example of this from the film is Todd being confused at how big the family groups are in India. And this is because I think they have a higher femininity score, so family is much more important to them. Short-term versus long-term orientation. We are very much a short-term orientated culture. We are taught to consume. We care much less about the needs of our world, and we more care about our needs right now. Our society pushes us to spend our money right away rather than save it, right? And finally, restraint versus indulgence. A good example of this is when Todd drove all the way, like hours in the taxi just to get a McDonald's hamburger, and he got there and there wasn't even burgers there. We have an incredibly indulgent society. Once again, we are told to consume, indulge, obviously, and we love to spend our money on luxuries and enjoy leisure activities, which in some cultures that's not so the case. That's about it. Thank you guys. Have a great rest of your day.